Hey, it's Jake Fralix and Michael Hobbs, and you're listening to the Patriarch Podcast. On this week's episode, hello spring, goodbye winter. I spent all day Sunday prepping my lawn for spring. I'll touch on this and like things in the week in review.
And Hobbsie's Hobbies, I'll dive into why I got a Pellet Grill and how it's going since then.
And in case you missed it, I'll highlight just a few going-ons around the sports world, including the legend Anthony Kim finally making his much-anticipated return to golf, but not the PGA Tour. Then the NFL free agency window is just 2 weeks away. Is this the best running back class of all time?
Finally, I'll do the 5 and 5, where I rank the top 5 and not so top 5 baseball movies.
If you enjoy joining us each week, please subscribe to our channel. Also, don't forget to give us a review. Thanks for listening, and now pull up that chair, grab a drink, and enjoy this week's episode and the stories shared along the way. This is Patriarch Podcast.
Here we go, week 2, made it through another week. All right, Pats Nation.
Pats Nation. You know, that's one thing that we've been trying to work through this week is whether we're going to call ourselves Pats Nation. None of us are particularly Patriots fans, but you know, we're trying to find all of this is kind of falling in, or we want it to be an organic experience for everybody. And whether that's Pats Nation or we've kind of turned and maybe decided that maybe Patties might be the home for us. And so we're just going to kind of let it be organic and figure out kind of what's best moving forward. We do have something that is official. As you can see, we've got a new room that we now call our pavilion. It's kind of our home for our patties or our Pat Nation or whatever we decide that we're going to be. And so, you know, we wanted to build a space where you and I, when we came to do what we want to do, had something comfortable to look at and be comfortable in. And I think this kind of encompasses kind of what we like to do. Would you say?
Yeah, I mean, perfect. I mean, listen to sweet 70s music and, you know, sports. So you got Rangers, you got some LT, LaDainian Tomlinson, Jamie Benn. I mean, how about it? We're rolling.
I think it's all good. And, you know, who knows where this takes us and a little bit about that. So I wanted to make an official announcement here in about 2 weeks' time, not this next coming week, but the following week after that. We're going to do kind of a midweek special, Hobbs, where we do kind of a behind the mic, if you want to say, behind the recording, and just talk a little bit about why we want to do this.
Yeah, I think, you know, hopefully as this expands, you know, where people kind of get an idea of who we are, and when we say average dad, what we mean, we know what we think that means. So I'm excited, looking forward to it. I think anytime that, you know, we can get closer to our, you know, our viewers and listeners, I think that's always a good thing.
Yeah, and I think that's what we want to do. We just kind of want to create a relationship with like, oh, I hear these voices. And let's be honest, a lot of our followers, people who are listening right now, we do know personally.
Yeah, most of us are our friends, our family.
But, you know, we are out on main platforms. There could be people searching for us. And what we want to do is just be able to let them know who's Jake Fralix and who's Michael Hobbs, and ultimately what are they trying to do in something like this. And so that's coming up in 2 weeks' time. So we're going to look to do that the middle of, not this coming week, but the week after that. So keep an eye out for that quick episode, and then we'll go from there. One way that you guys can help us is just by spreading the word, right? Following us on social media, posting it on social media, telling your friends about it. That's the best way to get the word of mouth out for Patriarch Podcast. So by all means, thanks for helping us out, and we appreciate it. And let's get rolling into segment 1.
Yeah, here we go.
This segment is what we call our week in review. And so we talk about something that is a highlight or maybe a low light through the week. And so Hobbs, why don't you kick it off?
Yeah, so mine actually happened yesterday. I have been dreading, so I'll just start. I'm an administrator at a middle school, so I actually decided that I got duty to do the track meet, the first track meet of the year. So for the middle school, so it was at the high school, and you know, I picked this a long time ago, and then all of a sudden it's high of 45 with a 20-mile north wind. So I had to bust out the old coaching attire, my tights and my hoodies, and I headed over there, and I was outside for about an hour, and it was pretty miserable. Well, then I saw, actually, I remember that the principal at the high school's child actually runs for my middle school, and so I thought, well, he's got to be here somewhere, and I texted him, and he told me he was in the press box and asked me to come up there. So I actually only spent an hour out in the cold. I went up and stayed the rest of the time in the press box. So
Nice.
yeah, got lucky there. I don't have many perks in my job, but that was a perk. So yeah, so it turned out to be. I thought it was going to be a low life. It turned out, and we actually won a few events. So it was a good deal.
Good. Well, that's awesome. And, kind of talking about that cold weather kind of transition into my kind of highlight of the week. So, I talked about it a little bit last week about having to do some yard work this past weekend. Last week on the episode, it was this coming weekend. And so I spent all day Sunday just kind of preparing my lawn for the warm weather that we are anticipating. Of course, the last couple of days were a little bit cooler, but cool weather is behind us, I think, from here on out. I think it's going to be
That's
fairly
it.
nice
Yeah,
forward.
this is the last cool down, I think.
And so I spent, probably about 8 hours on Sunday getting my yard ready. So I scalped, I actually double cut scalped, which is crazy. I probably shouldn't have done that. That might have been a little bit too risky, but my Bermuda is so thick that I got to bring it down basically to the second notch because my push lawnmower will not get through it. It is not self-propelled.
Yeah, you did a good job. Your yard's pretty thick, so I was pretty impressed with it.
Yeah, I cut it one way on the second to low setting, and then I came back and cut it the complete opposite way in the lowest setting. And it took me what usually takes me about an hour to mow, took me about 3 hours to mow. And of course, while I was doing all that, I decided to turn the sprinkler system on, give that a test run. I decided to throw down some granule on Sunday night to just prep myself a little bit of weed and feed, and it's coming together really good. It'd be really good if we wouldn't have had that little bit of a cold snap. It'd probably be looking prime right now, but definitely headed in the right direction and excited to see in a couple months what that lawn looks like.
Yeah, you were out there a long time. I was wondering what you were doing over here. So I mean, but it looks good. Think the hard work was good for your yard. So good job. All I did was a cut and sprayed some weeds and blew out the garage, and literally an hour later my kids got it dirty again. So that was pretty much all I did to my yard. But I know everybody got a snap picture of that on Instagram. Jake came over and snuck over and got that while I was weeding, so that was pretty funny.
Yeah, I decided to come over and take a little bit of a snap and post it. I wanted people to know that, hey, this is what dads do on Sundays when the kids are taking a nap. It's time to get out and roll up the sleeves and get some grind on, and that's exactly what we were doing.
If you don't know, me and Jake live catty corner to each other, so it's pretty easy to check out what everyone's doing, and sometimes probably make each other feel guilty if, oh, Jake's out in the yard, I better get out there and start going. I don't want him to one-up me this week. So
Well, and I know you said you only did one mow, but let's be honest, that St. Augustine is a lot more friendly than the Bermuda, that's for sure.
yeah, and when you talk about mowing pattern, then like I've tried my best to do mowing powders, but with that St. Augustine, it's kind of difficult. I mean, there have been people that have like changed it, put attachments on there to weight it down, so that you got the grass going in different directions to get the grass going that way. But I don't care that much. But I think you have a better shot with your Bermuda doing that.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. So, super excited for the next couple weeks. Hopefully, it's going to be really nice. It did raise up one question for me, and I think a topic that us guys have wondered about. What is your mowing order of merit?
hmm Yeah, so I've thought about that before too, because I'm always been an edge and a mow guy, and then blow it off, obviously. And I don't know why, because that's the way my dad always did it, so that's how I did it. And I've seen other guys do it the other way, and so sometimes I was just like, oh well, let's get wild. So I was gonna go the other way one way and 1 week, and it really didn't make that much of a difference. But I've gone right back to the way I'm used to. I don't know why. It just makes sense in my brain that way, I guess.
Yeah, I was trained growing up by my father, my patriarch, that it's edge, weed eat, mow.
Yep.
So the curiosity got the best of me this weekend, and I actually decided to look it up, and you would be surprised at how many people do it a different way. The majority of the group that I saw on the internet, they do mow, edge, weedy, blow. That
Hmm.
just seems so foreign to me.
I mean, I guess it's what you're supposed to mow as much as you can, so you don't have to use the weed eater. get as close as you possibly can.
I guess, but in my mind, I like to weed eat because then my mower comes back and cuts up the clippings, right? That are left over from the weed eat. So, nonetheless, Pats out there, please feel free to let us know what way do you mow, and we're interested to hear kind of that information. So,
Yeah, I'd like to know, well, maybe if there's a reason why you do it that way, if it's the other way, because I'm just guessing.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's one right way to do it. I guess what's Neil Sperry say, right?
Yeah, I could probably write in. So usually, yeah, he has a Q&A, so maybe I should write in and ask him.
Ask him. I'd love to hear what his response is. Hobbs, I have an exciting update for our listeners.
Oh yeah, what's that?
We have an official sponsor.
Oh wow.
You know, here at Patriarch Podcast, we believe ourselves to be average dads living average lives in an average town in Texas. No better apparel for us than Average Birds. A brand started locally by a good friend of ours, Ben Hammonds. He created this brand with one thing in mind: to celebrate the beauty in everyday life. He wanted to embrace the average golfer, whether you shoot 72 or 95. Personally, Average Birds has been a go-to for me for years. I wear it whether I'm out on a Friday night, barbecuing at home, or just doing everyday life. Ben over at Average Birds is taking care of our Pats. For a limited time only, Pats get 20% off with the discount code PATRIARCH. That's all lowercase, PATRIARCH. So head on over to the shop at AverageBirds.com and grab some apparel. And as they say, come join the flock. Next segment up is Hobbsie's Hobbies. During this segment, Michael will enlighten the listener on a cooking story, a recipe, or cooking technique that he likes or prefers. Today, Michael is going to tell us why he loves his pellet smoker and how it's been going since then.
Yeah, so I'm a dad of a 2 and a 4-year-old, and so, when I'll just start by why I love barbecue. I've always loved barbecue, but I really fell in love with, like, great barbecue when I moved to Lexington, Texas, home of Snow's Barbecue, and, I was lucky enough to be able to try that multiple times, and it's just amazing, and so I kinda started really falling in love with that, and I just don't think that
You didn't talk about the best part of going to Snow's is the fact that you coach the owner's son and you got to skip the line in front of everybody. You forgot to tell people that.
No, yeah, I didn't yeah, so Kerry Bexley's the owner and he's he's not the pit master, that's Tootsie, but he's, the owner of Snow's Barbecue. His son, Colby, played, second base for me for 2 years for Lexington High School, so I kinda got the hook up, yeah, I didn't ever have to wait in the line, I just kinda walked around, and there was even a couple times where I didn't even pay, so, but, yeah, so I got to try the best barbecue in the Texas, all the time, anytime I wanted, so that was awesome, and so I always had the desire to get somewhere near replicate that, and I've had friends that have, either have older kids or just don't have kids, and, they're able to sit by their fire smoker and, regulate the temperature all afternoon, and I just didn't think that would be something that I'd ever be able to do, and right now in this time, maybe all later on down the road. And so I, uh, I wanted a pellet smoker. Well, I told myself that I would not. I'm not. I wanted a certain one, and so I saved up. Like this is so stupid, but I decided that I would just wait until I had the money and gift cards to buy it. Well, and for some reason, I got so weird about it that I just waited, and so I ended up waiting till I got $1,000 in gift cards from Academy and went and bought a Traeger smoker, and so, I only ended up spending, like, $50 or something on it, so, um, after that, I just, even then, I started having, like, anxiety about using it because I didn't know what I was doing, but I just started following certain people like Meat Church, and even the Traeger app's great, and just basically following it to a T using seasonings that are, I've that I've listened to friends from or I've gotten from friends and just, like, seasonings and things like that, and really, I couldn't be happier. I've done 3 or 4 briskets. I've done multiple set of ribs. I've done multiple pulled pork, and I've done turkeys. I've done chickens, and like it's just so easy. And now with the meter thermometer that I have, I mean, it is nothing more than just set it and forget it. I mean, you might have to wrap at a certain temperature, but like if you just follow recipes straight up, like I said, Traeger app, meatchurch .com walks you all the way through it. Um, it can't be any easier than that. And I love it. You guys come over and try it. And I don't know, like I'm not a genius, so I can just tell you that anybody can do it. What it does also allow is that when it's cooking, I'm not making my wife take care of the kids all day while I sit outside the smoker. And so I don't have that guilt factor. And so, which I don't think my wife really care, but I care. So it's been good. I've enjoyed it. I don't know if anybody is listening that doesn't have one, but if you really like doing it and you're a dad and you're at home on the weekends with your kids and you just want to feel like you're doing something that's like, I have a hobby, even though you're really not like, I mean, people that are like, the barbecue expert would say, I'm not going to do it that way. But I've had friends that have been that way and been reluctant to get a pellet smoker and then got one and said they'll never go back because it's so easy. I would suggest getting it. I don't even think like Traeger probably is a good brand, but there's other really good brands too. I know my uncle and I think you both have a Pit Boss, and both are really like them. And you can get those at Walmart, you can get those at Academy. And so, I think most of the reason why, and my opinion, the way to keep it where it's not frustrating is keeping the grill clean. I keep it clean. I clean it after every cook. And I know that's a little OCD, but it really doesn't take long. If you cook it, if you clean it every time, it doesn't take long. If you put foil underneath the grates and you clean the grates, that's really all I do. I don't, I think it's really easy, and I would recommend it to anybody doing that.
Yeah, and so, this segment originally was designed for us to kind of share cooking techniques. Over the years of just spending a Saturday with Hobbs or a Sunday or cooking, I've learned is Hobbs is a way better cook than I am. And so I really just wanted to transition this into his segment where he talks about something that he likes to do. And I'm going to chime in. I'm excited to kind of see where this takes you and kind of the feedback that you get. But I think it's going to be your own little segment that you can have fun with and share. And some days we'll do barbecue segments, and then some days we'll do something else. We'll do something a little bit different.
We've had a few talks about doing just different recipes that just, people make fun of me because I like to make potato cheese or things like that. But I just think that'd be good as we go through, certain seasons doing different things. So I don't know. I think it's great. And I think it'll probably get, if hopefully this expands like we hope it will, maybe getting people giving ideas or maybe in criticisms, that would be even better. Cause I'm so good at taking good, critical feedback. I love that.
Well, awesome. Hobbsie, bringing it in your corner today. Appreciate the feedback. And people at home, like you said, if you're nervous to try it, do what I did. Go to Walmart, get yourself a reasonably cheap pellet grill. Try it out on there. See if it's something that you like. Don't go out and get a Traeger that you're going to invest $1,100 in. Go get something for $350. Give it a try out and get comfortable. Burn it in the ground at that point, and then when you finally are like, I'm in it, I love it, I want to move on, go get yourself a Traeger.
Yeah, I think a lot of people say the reason why they get more expensive is the thickness of the metal, and so it just holds heat better. So I would agree with that. Like just especially in Texas where it's 100 degrees most of the time, it probably doesn't have that much difficulty keeping the heat. So I would definitely agree with you, Jake. I probably, like I said, I wouldn't have bought a Traeger unless I had the gift card. So I agree with you, Jake. I would just go out and buy what you can afford and then just play around with it. And you really can't screw it up.
Really can't screw it up unless you get a grease fire while cooking a hamburger, which I've done recently, actually. But
it wasn't just one. It wasn't just one hamburger.
It was the whole pot. But nonetheless, awesome. Thanks for bringing it in your corner.
Yeah, no. Thanks for coming to Hobbies. Or Hobbsie's Hobbies. That's going to be, I think you should try to say that 5 times fast. We're going to pause for a little break in action. This is a great time to top off that drink. If you or anyone you know is interested in sponsoring the Patriarch Podcast, please reach out to our team at patriarchpodcast@gmail.com.
Next segment, In the Zone, where we highlight interesting things that happen around the world of sports this week. We are going to kick it off with Anthony Kim making his much anticipated return to professional golf, but not the PGA Tour. That's right. He makes his debut in just a couple hours here on the Live Golf Tournament circuit. He is going to be playing in this week's Jeddah Open in Saudi Arabia. Interesting story about Anthony Kim for those of you who haven't followed golf over the last probably decade and a half. Anthony Kim was a early aughts phenom who came on in 2005, 2006, had very early success. He looked like he might be the next Tiger Woods. And then through a series of injuries, the most recent one, or the one that led to his lengthy layoff, was his Achilles tendon surgery that happened in 2012. The word on the street is that he took out a $10 million insurance policy that would basically guarantee him that money if he suffered a career-ending injury. And it sounds like he cashed in on that. Well, what's going to happen to that?
Well, yeah. So I don't know if we talked about this earlier in the week. We didn't know what was going to happen to that 10 million. I would assume that he's losing it, right?
I would assume that he is going to have to pay back either all of it or a certain percentage. Now, you've looked at some of the stories coming out of Live Golf. Coincidentally, this is the second consecutive week where we've talked about Live Golf.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the paychecks coming out of Live Golf are substantial. Jon Rahm just signed a multi-$100 million contract to come over from the PGA Tour to the Live, but taking a risk on somebody who hasn't played professional golf in almost 12 years seems like a pretty risky business.
Yeah, I mean he's my age, so now obviously way more talented than I am, but 38 and gonna try to make his way back. Kind of read a lot, just trying to make sure I was up for this because it seems like he has he feels pretty confident. He says he's very talented. He's probably more talented than other players, so he's very confident in himself. What I thought it was crazy was they were calling him the Golfy Yeti because I guess he was just backed away. He doesn't even, I guess when he went away, he kind of stopped associating with all of his friends and stuff. So no one kind of knew where he went. Just kind of went off with his family. The guys he was friends with on the tour didn't really know what happened to him, or at least didn't talk to him anymore.
Well, he resides in Dallas. He lives in the Dallas area.
Yeah, he's a Sooner, right? Went to Oklahoma?
Don't quote me on that. I don't know. I have no idea. But residing in the Dallas area, you have to think in some capacity that the long layoff has to do with him knowing if I pick up a golf club again in a professional capacity, I've got to write back a $10 million check. That makes me wonder if that's the reason why it's taken this long. And then he's looked at the Live tournament and thought, the way these guys are making money, I win one or two tournaments and I'll have $10 million and I can easily pay that back.
I saw it was a 201 for him to win a tournament. Right now, some people are averaging him finishing 48th, but really feel like that's just like a shot in the dark. I mean, how could you even, I mean, obviously Vegas does more than I do, but you have no idea what this guy's capable of right now. No one's seen him play in a long time. He knows how good he is. So, I wish him all the luck. I think he's probably going to earn that money back. Like you said, they're throwing around money like crazy. Even if he's just getting followers, they're going to pay him some money.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got to think he's probably worked in some incentive to do that. But nonetheless, we'll start his professional career again in just a few short hours. A couple of statistics for you. On his 122 starts in his very short PGA Tour career for 6 seasons, he had 122 starts. He made 84 cuts. He had 22 top 20 finishes, 17 top 5 finishes, 7 top 3, 4 runner-ups, and 3 wins with a career winning of $12 million. So statistically, that's a guy who every 3 tournaments he goes out there and competes in, he makes the cut in 2 of them and then goes on to make the top 20 in 4 or in 1 out of every 4. So the guy knows how to play golf.
I guess he was number 6 in the world at one point.
Number 6 in the world at one point. So the guy knows how to ball. Of course, that was 12 years ago, so it'll be interesting to see if he continues to know how to ball. Still in the zone here, Rick Pitino making a little bit of news this past week. They say good coaches know how to motivate. Hobbs, is this evident with what Rick Pitino has had going on the last week?
Gotta say, I just feel like old school coaches like this, people just kind of give them benefit of the doubt, especially players. They listen to them, which is great. I think that's great when kids respond to coaching. Um, yeah, great job, Rick Pitino. Shout out to Rick Pitino.
Yeah, so a little bit on the backstory here. He made headlines last week, ripping his own team after they blew a 19-point lead that led to a loss to Seton Hall. Of course, if you don't know, he's now coaching at St. John's. In his post-game interview, he specifically talked about his team's lack of toughness and being non-athletic, and getting out-rebounded in about every game that they've been in thus far.
Yeah, I kind of feel like the non-athletic part would be the part that really would get me. Although I would agree, but I feel like a basketball player probably feels like he's athletic. So toughness is something that you can probably say, yeah, I wouldn't play in toughness. But when the guy calls you non-athletic, there's not much coming back from that.
Yeah, and he said it's really not about losing. He said even when they win games, they still aren't playing good basketball.
Yeah.
At one point, he answered a question coming from the media when he said this has been the most unenjoyable experience he has had since he's been coaching, although he doesn't regret taking the job.
Well, yeah, when he was at Louisville, they were having a lot of fun. That's why he's now at St. John's. So, I mean, yeah.
Well, this past Sunday, the St. John's must have taken what he said to heart. They hosted Creighton in Madison Square Garden. Coach Pitino came out in all white. He had a full white suit on with a white undershirt and white shoes.
Whiteout.
And that whiteout fueled the St. John's to an 80-66 upset. Of course, Creighton coming into the matchup as the 16th ranked team in the country. Pitino's team shot 47% from the field, 25% from three-point land, and 100% from the line.
Oh, there you go. I mean, they didn't win by just out three ball. They had to play tough basketball to win that game.
And they out-rebounded Creighton. So definitely took what he said to heart and wanted to make sure they themselves rebounded, and they did just that. So this is the first win that they've had over Creighton in the last 8 tries, the last one coming at home in March of 2020.
I mean, I just think that's the way the basketball that I watch in college basketball, it just seems like that's so college basketball right now. Like, go out, you're just getting beat by terrible teams. All of a sudden, you just pop up and beat a 16. Like, what is that? Like, I don't feel like that happens in college football at all. Like, I feel like most of the time, the team that's supposed to win wins, especially if you're ranked and a team that's just not playing well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that happens and I think it has to go along with all the college sports right now. And we talk about it has to come down from the NIL deal. It's any given Saturday, right? Well, at this point, it's any given Saturday or any given Sunday or any given Tuesday.
These sports like baseball and basketball where you're not having just, these teams that just flood with the NIL. I think you're right. I think you can show up and win any week. That's for sure.
Well, on the topic of college basketball, once again, some unfortunate news coming out of Durham, North Carolina. We talked last week about Wake Forest's baseball team, the number 1 team in the country, getting upset at home.
Who knew Wake Forest would make both weeks on Patriot Podcast?
For the second time in consecutive weeks, Wake Forest in the headlines, this time not for baseball-related news, but for the basketball team's upset over Duke on Saturday, which was a big step in the right direction for the Demon Deacons.
Sure.
But in the chaos of the fans storming the court after the game,
I saw it.
Duke's star Kyle Filipowski comes up hobbled after colliding with a Demon Deacon fan. A lot of rumblings coming around college athletics, but specifically college basketball, about getting rid of storming the court. What's your thought on storming the court, Hobbs?
I don't know. Did you see it? Like, it looked like he tripped a guy like himself. I guess, yeah, I can see it. It's just, I don't know. It was, when I was in college, granted in Texas A&M, well, they were pretty good in basketball. They were just starting to get good, and they beat Texas for like the first time forever with AC Law on a last-second 3, and they stormed the court, and it was great. But I don't know. I mean, I can see why there's problems.
Yeah. In a situation like that, I think Filipowski's frustrated. They just lost, right? In an ACC matchup. He's trying to get off the court. There's mayhem going on.
Yeah.
Whether he got bumped or in frustration got tangled up with somebody else, I do think that the world of storming the court continues to be a dangerous area.
Can't we just let the other team get off and then go party on the court? Go do whatever you want. Hey, let us get these guys off of here, and then y'all can do whatever you want.
Again, back to my realm of college athletics, I know there's enough security inside that facility to hold them back, at least in time for Duke to get off the court.
Well, I mean, I even think if you just made it a rule, like, other team has to get off the court before you storm it. I think it's like everything else. 99% of society is going to follow along with that, and then we can take care of the 1% with security, right?
Yeah, and a lot of coaches obviously snubbing their nose up at this, but even Wake Forest's coach this week came out publicly and agreed that storming the court shouldn't be allowed. And so, I do think maybe it comes down to the conference commissioner saying, hey, if you don't wait until the team's coming off the court, your athletic department's going to be subject to a $10,000 fine. I don't know what that looks like. Now, there's a difference in holding back 6,500 people at a ACC basketball opposed to 65,000 people in any ACC football stadium.
Yeah, and that's another good point of waiting until the team gets off the field with college football, because you got 100 players plus trying to get them off the field. But also you could give the team a time limit, like, hey, we're going to give you 5 minutes, get in the locker room, like, and then in 5 minutes we're going to let them go.
And you would be surprised about how many kids wouldn't wait around for that 5 minutes. They don't want to sit there and wait for these people to go off. If they're not going to get on the court, they'd rather go back to the frat house and figure out something else to do.
Yep. I'll just head on over to Northgate and celebrate. So, yeah, I get that too. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I get it. I get it both ways. I think it's fun, but also it's dangerous, and so you probably need to have some rules and regulations around it.
I think the trend is turning. I do think there's going to be some ramifications here in the next couple years, but right now it's going to remain people storming the court, and as long as they do that, you're going to have college kids up on the court and getting collided with athletes, and so.
Well, yeah, and then the thing about it now with the social media and getting the clicks and getting your looks, you're going to have people doing some crazy stuff because they might get an extra couple of clicks on YouTube. So, something you might not have done before when you didn't have your Instagram live going.
Sure. Well, Filipowski's status remained unclear earlier in this week. The Blue Devils coach John Shire said early in the week that Filipowski just didn't seem himself. He actually ended up playing last night in Duke's home win over Louisville, where he scored 9 points and had 10 rebounds in 29 minutes of play. So sounds like he's back to normal.
And it sounds like Louisville's still missing Coach Patino. So.
Sounds like Louisville. It's come full circle.
Yeah.
Still in the zone here. Want to talk a little bit about the NFL. Potential change coming to the kickoff rule. Have you heard a little bit about this?
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen it, and I've seen the XFL rule obviously, and then saw it, and I don't know. I'm not really understanding. I kind of just wish that they just put the ball down on the 25 and say, let's just not do it anymore if this is what everybody's worried about. Also, I've seen the argument of, at some point, when are we going to stop worrying about injuries in football? I mean, it's football. Somebody's supposed to get injured, right?
Yeah, but I think the argument coming from the NFL and the XFL, and of course we'll talk specifically about the change here in a second, is the kickoff, at least the first kickoff, is typically the most exciting play in that game. Everybody is just sitting down to watch the game. Think about that week one. You've waited 6 months just for that one kickoff, for that 1 second to say, you know what, it's back. So, going to take a step back and we're going to talk a little bit about the NFL rule. What they're looking at potentially adopting for this season is the current XFL rule. The XFL adopted a rule last year where the kicker lines up on his own 30. His remaining 10 teammates line up on the opposing 35-yard line. The receiving team, the receiver lines up essentially on his goal line, and the remaining 10 players of his team line up on their own 30. So 5 yards apart from the kicking team. Nobody can move until that ball that's kicked is fielded by the fielder. Now, this is what I don't seem to understand. A touchback goes to the 35-yard line. Current NFL rule is that it goes to the 25. So instead of rewarding that kicker for doing his job and sailing it an extra 5 yards through the end zone, he actually technically gets punished 10 yards on top of the original 5. So he essentially gets punished 15 yards for kicking it out of the end zone.
Yeah, and to your point earlier about everybody loves the kickoff, I don't think I'm going to love just guys standing 5 yards apart from each other while some kicker kicks it over their heads. I just think that looks ridiculous.
It does. It looks strange. It takes a little bit to get used to. I just don't understand. You know, they put a lot of emphasis on...
Are people getting hurt on kickoffs as much? I mean,
I
I just don't feel like it's that big of a deal anymore. Now that they've incentivized even taking a touchback within the 10-yard line and back. Like if you catch the ball within the 10-yard line, you can take a touchback.
Yeah.
I think it's the 10.
Yeah, if you fair catch it, essentially you line it up at the 25.
I mean, I feel like most coaches tell their guys, let's just take the touchback.
Yeah. They always say that the kicker's job off a kickoff is to sail it through the end zone for a touchback, right? Because they would get punished typically they get punished for a return.
Yeah.
Essentially what they're doing is they are punishing the kicker for doing his job, which doesn't seem to make any sense. Maybe I'm a little...
Incentivized is more tackling and contact.
The thing that you've complained about for the last decade to try to get away from. So not sure how that's going to go. Of course, last year's NFL rule was only adopted for that season. So changes coming regardless, whether they adopt last year's rule or make changes. A new policy will go into place this coming year. So, interesting fact, last year, 90% of the XFL kickoffs were fielded and taken out of the end zone. This last year, for the NFL, only 40%. So, gonna be interested to see what comes out of the NFL.
Yeah, because you're incentivizing them taking it. Yeah, sure.
Correct. Still in the zone here, are going to transition a little bit into what's been on everybody's mind in the NFL. Free agency. Hobbs, we are just a mere 2 weeks away from the NFL free agency, and I think this might be the deepest, most impressive free agent running back class we have ever seen.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, just the guys off the top of your head, Josh Jacobs. I mean, J.K. Dobbins, shout out LaGrange, Texas. I mean, DeAndre Swift, Derrick Henry, geez, Louise. I mean, all these guys look and make a lot of money. And, you know, us both being unapologetic Dallas Cowboys fans, Pollard's going to be on the market. I'm really interested to think, Jake, who do you want to go after?
So, again, I know you reviewed some of them. I think the 3 top headlines are Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, Tony Pollard. The word coming out, at least on those 3, of course, Jacobs isn't going to be franchised or isn't expected to be franchised by Vegas.
Same with Barkley. They don't want to franchise him.
Correct. Vegas would owe Jacobs right now an estimated $14 million this year. Saquon Barkley actually met this week with the Giants. It's a little bit more optimistic for him than it was this time last week. They are talking about franchising him. You know, last season they did franchise him. They didn't give him the extension that he wanted. Nobody on the market's really getting the extension that they want. And so, you know, Saquon is set to be paid $12 million this year. if he gets tagged. And then the same with Tony Pollard. The Cowboys are going to have to pay him $12 million. As a Cowboys fan, I would love to see Saquon personally.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I would too. I don't think that's happening, but yeah, I'd love to see that.
I think out of those three and what we see in the market right now, I think a lot that goes into the decisions here are age. And looking just at the ages,
Wear and tear, sure.
Saquon's 27, Tony Pollard's 27, Josh Jacobs 26, but then you get into people like Derrick Henry. He's on the free agent market. He's going to be 30 this year. I mean, he is up there, and we know that, right? Especially with the consistency.
I saw a lot of people talking about maybe him going to the Ravens because they're losing both their running backs. Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins both gone. Like a Derrick Henry might fit in well in that system.
Yeah, and another guy that's up there, Austin Eckler, he's on the free agent market.
He's one of those duo combos, he kind of can do both for you.
Yeah, he's kind of the all-around guy that really plays. He's the first down back, but then he's also the third down back.
I know he's 29, so that's what you worry about. I don't know. Sometimes I think maybe that's kind of what the Cowboys need is a home run plus a guy that can grind it out.
Yeah, absolutely. A guy that's going to play. That's the deal that we had with Zeke. Zeke was the guy who played, gosh, 80% of the snaps, right? I mean, now that's how Tony Pollard now got paid last year. He was coming in third and long situations and making stew out of absolutely nothing. And so, of course, as a Dallas Cowboys fan, you have a bad taste in your mouth after this year. I think he really did struggle in that first down role.
So refresh my memory. What does it mean to be tagged?
So each team essentially gets one tag, and basically there's a difference. There's an exclusive tag and there's a non-exclusive tag. Basically, an exclusive tag prohibits a player from negotiating from other teams and guarantees that player gets a salary based on the average top 5 salaries in that position or 120% of the player's previous salary. Whichever is higher, that's essentially the one that they get. Now, the difference is with the non-exclusive is it allows actually the player to go out and essentially talk to other teams and really fill out the market. If the player essentially agrees to deal with the new team, the original team. So if Saquon went out and searched the market and got to talking to Jerry about joining the Cowboys, they could offer him the franchise tag, but then he could also go back to New York, and New York would have an opportunity to then say, we're going to match the offer or refuse it, which, crazy enough, if they refuse that tag, guess what they get in lieu of?
So
2 first-round picks as compensation. How crazy is that?
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah, it absolutely does. So, of course, the same salary rules apply for the non-exclusive tag.
I can see why you wouldn't want to put a running back on a tag.
Yeah, exactly. Especially, and I think all the owners kind of have gotten together and said, kind of like the NBA, like if we pay these guys, then we're all going to end up paying, because that average is going to continue to tick and tick and tick on guys who at 30 years old.
Yeah, it's like all those Scott Boris's free agents in baseball. Basically, everybody's come together and said, "We're not paying you. Jordan Montgomery? What are you going to do? Snell? What are you going to do? Because we're not paying it."
Yeah, and last year, Jonathan Taylor held out for a reasonably long amount of time and finally got his paycheck. But he's been the only guy in the last 12 months that has really gotten paid, and he didn't play nearly as well as they anticipate. I mean, he did okay, but Zach Moss is a guy that's come on out of Indianapolis and has really turned some heads. He's on the free agent market, and he's not at the bottom half. He's at the top half. So another guy that always interests me, Cordero Patterson at the age 33, of course, most recently playing with the Atlanta Falcons. So a lot of fun stuff going on in the world of sports.
Yeah. Interested in coming on the show or suggesting a topic for our team to discuss our rank? Feel free to submit ideas, suggestions, and topics at thepatriarchpodcast@gmail.com.
Gonna transition now to our weekend preview where we talk about what we have going on this weekend. Michael, what's on the calendar?
Yeah, we're going to wife and I will probably hang out on the patio after the kids go to bed. I'll grill something up. That's always kind of fun for us. We don't go on too many dates outside of the house because of just having young kids, but we like to always just kind of wait till the kids go to bed and then eat afterwards. It's always kind of just a small little fun thing we do. And then Saturday, first of the month, we are going to take both the boys to the Home Depot Kids Build, which it's something more for the kids, but it's fun. It teaches them kind of the basics of nailing and painting, and they always give them projects, and they do it the first of the month. All the Home Depots do it. So if you're looking for something to do with your kids on Saturday morning, I think it's from like 9 to 12. If you just walk up to where the wood area where they
Carpentry.
carpentry, thank you. They'll give your kid a project, and then you can build it with them, and then you can paint it, and then take it home. Ours usually, end up in the trash about 2 weeks later, but some don't.
Occasionally, you see Nate running around the house
Right.
in the Home Depot.
And they get an apron, and you get a
Apron.
little pin, and I think they have like a reward system if you do so many. But I would do that with your kids, especially if you're looking for something to do. I'm gonna try to while I'm at Home Depot, I'm gonna get some mulch. Not quite time for Bermuda sweet seed, but I'll probably just get it while I'm there just to have it. And then, I talked about having St. Augustine, but I like to do a little Bermuda mix, especially in those areas where it's real sunny and hot, because the Bermuda just doesn't take as well as, or sorry, the St. Augustine doesn't take as well as the Bermuda. So I'll probably pick that up and then, keep checking. I'm probably going to check the sprinkler heads one more time, and then just, Jay, we're about there, man. We're going to start watering on the reg. I'm gonna let the dog eat. I'm gonna start letting the water go. So that's the weekend. Nothing crazy, but as I said, 5 more days until spring break. So here we go. What about you, man?
Yeah, Chloe works, so really not that much. Chloe works Saturday, which is normal in our household. She's a nurse, and so there are Saturdays where she's has to work, and it's fine. So I'll be on dad duty, which is good. I've been kind of grinding at all gears lately, and it'll be nice to kind of sit back and relax. So super excited about that. And then on Sunday, of course, just the normal church, and then if I'm lucky, I will wash the cars. And
That's something you love doing.
yeah, I've been kind of reluctant to say, but Chloe went and got her car washed behind my back the other.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if I've ever known you to be an automatic car wash guy. How embarrassing.
It threw me by surprise. She was a little reluctant to tell me because she knew it would break my heart, and it's not against her.
No, that's all on you.
A little backstory. I used to watch my car religiously every weekend before we had kids. I would go out on a Saturday morning and I would wash my truck and I would wash the 4Runner, and it was my therapy. It was my way to get out and unwind, and just with kind of the hustle and bustle of everyday life, it's just kind of fallen under the radar, and I still get to get out every once,
Making podcasts.
but not as frequently as I had done in the past. And
No, it's good. You should
This-
get back to doing that.
this past week, she took it and got it washed behind my back, and was
That's gotta
reluctant.
that's gotta
It
hurt.
kind of broke my heart, but I've moved on. It's no longer sour grapes. So back on the train. Hopefully I can wash the car, but that's about it. Final segment, 5 and 5, where we rank a subject, brand, or thing and give it our top 5 favorites and our not so top 5 favorites as well. Everything in the middle is just kind of a mute point. So Michael is bringing it this week. He's got his 5 and 5 favorite baseball movies.
Yeah, so I really want to start with the worst 5. And these are baseball movies. We're just going to kick with that theme. And, look, like I said, hey, Patties, if you don't like it, well, let me know in the comments because I'd really love to know. So number 5 worst baseball movies, The Rookie. I know it's on TV all the time, but it stars Dennis Quaid, which is the lesser of the Quaids. I'm a Randy Quaid guy. But God, it's just so long. I mean, it's not like it's a bad story. It's a neat story, but I mean, it just feels like I mean, it's probably a 3-hour movie, and God knows how long it is on TV, and they put it on Disney. And honestly, I don't know. I could take or leave the whole half about how he's driving around the country with his dad at the beginning. Just seems like all that stuff is fluff.
I'm gonna go a little bit against the fray here. What you're telling me is you don't love Texas. You don't like the comeback story. And what's the coolest thing about that movie, personally, is the fact that they filmed it in the Rangers ballpark when he made his MLB debut.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And he faced Royce Clayton actually. But I'm just
This is your opinion, so yes, I agree.
yeah,
But
it's just long and boring. Number 4, For the Love of the Game, the worst of the Kevin Costner baseball movies. I'm just not a big. First of all, it's long. I mean, and it really has nothing to do with baseball. It has to do with his love life with his girlfriend, and then and just although crazy, John C. Riley's in it. Like what? And he's not that funny.
how many Kevin Costner baseball movies are there?
There's too many, and this is one they made, and they were gonna think that it was gonna be great, and I just think it's not very good, and so that's yeah, like I said, it's all about his girlfriend. I'm never big about the love baseball movies, like I'm just not. And then so number 3, Mr. 3000, Bernie Mac plays a baseball player for the Milwaukee Brewers that hit 3,000, and then some statistical error turns out he only hit 298 or 2,998. So he needs like 2 more. And apparently he's just like a huge, jerk. And so we're to believe that a terrible Milwaukee team is dying for money. They're going to bring back this jerk because he needs 2 more hits. I mean, who even watches baseball for like singles?
Pour one out for Bernie Mac.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, Bernie
But
Mac.
you're right. Terrible movie. I agree. Not much going there. Bernie Mac doesn't play an athletic figure in my mind, or never did. And so I agree with that statement. Just not a great storyline.
No, and that's a good point because that brings us to number 2, Summer Catch. Summer Catch, Freddie Prinze Jr. heads up to the Cape as a basically last chance effort to try to get a signing to play in them, get a major league contract. He meets Jessica Biel, who, hey, everyone's a fan of Jessica Biel, and so no qualms on her. But this brings me to my point when we talk about Bernie Mac. I am not a fan of baseball movies or any athletic movies where the guy looks so athletic it never looks like he's ever thrown a baseball before. That just really teased me off, and not a fan of it. Not a fan of Freddie Prinze Jr. Not a good actor, and not a good movie overall. Although I'd love to spend a summer in the Cape.
So a little bit about that movie. When I saw this come up on the list, I am going through a series on Amazon called Bosch. Have you watched it?
Yeah, Bosch. Yeah,
The catcher in Summer Catch is like a relatively serious detective. And I thought, dude, I haven't seen you since Summer Catch when you almost pooped your pants every game. And so it was just interesting to see him in a completely different role. So
terrible movie, but you're right. So some of those guys have gone on to do good things. Finally, number 1, I think it's pretty obvious everyone is Ed. Ed is basically, we got Joey Tribbiani from Friends, who I guess was at his prime peak and on Friends. And so we're going to team him up with a chimp, and we're going to put them on a major league or a minor league baseball team and just see what happens.
it's as bad as it sounds. Literally, it's bad. It's as bad as it sounds.
Let's just see what happens when we put these 2 together.
It doesn't get worse than that.
No.
I had forgot completely about this movie until you put it back up on this list, and I ran back and just thought, what were they thinking putting him on there, especially in that prime? I mean, he was probably making 10 times as much money on Friends.
Yeah, why did he need to
roll as a baseball player with a chimp?
We really do need to try to get Matt LeBlanc on and just ask, like, what was your reasoning behind that?
Well, give him a little bit of time. He's probably still going through a lot, but yeah, Dude, Matt, what were you thinking? So
yeah, so there's the bottom 5. Top top five, and so we're gonna start with number five. This is a lesser known movie, but one of my favorites, and it probably one of my favorites because I grew up in the Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa era. It's 61 with an asterisk behind it. Barry Pepper plays Roger Maris, and it's basically the summer of 61. Mickey Mantle, Roger Maris are in the home run race to try to beat Babe Ruth's record of 60 home runs. That was like the unattainable record at the time. And so these two were on the same team on the Yankees, and they played like I said, they played with each other, and it just goes through that story of how likable of a person Mickey Mantle was and how unlikable. I mean, he wasn't a jerk, but he just was a kid from the Midwest trying to do his job. Roger Maris, and just how stressful of a situation it was with just the media then. And it was right after I think it came out, it was a Billy Crystal movie. It came right out after Mark McGuire broke his record. Roger Maris's record. So great movie. I thought it was a great. I mean, I watched that movie probably a million times just because I love baseball, and at the time I just thought it was a great movie. And people might disagree, but thought it was really good. Little known fact, or at least an unknown fact to me, because I play the Immaculate Grid every day. Which, if you don't know what that is, it's a website that's a game. You type in immaculategrid.com, and you get 9 squares, and they give you they kind of match up in the middle, and like it'd be like the kid had to play on the Pirates and the Indians, and who is somebody that does that, and then you get 9 chances to do it. It's just a little stupid game I play. But anyway, one of them was Hall of Fame, and it was Yankees, and I put in Roger Maris, and he didn't come up, and I was like, Roger Maris had to be in the Hall of Fame. Roger Maris is not in the Hall of Fame. So like that's crazy, like because I thought he was, but actually his career was actually pretty average, except for broke the home run record. So anyway, moving on. Number 4, Moneyball. I love Moneyball. Such great. I mean, geez, look at these actors: Brad Pitt, Jonah Hill, Chris Pratt, Philip Seymour Hoffman, and then of course Jenny from Forrest Gump. Like crazy. Love the movie.
I mean, personally, I would go that higher with it because, but yes, I love that it's a serious movie. There's a lot of characters in it and just a great storyline and something that we relate to in today's world. You look at some baseball with the chimp, non-relatable.
Yeah. And also turns out that story well, first of all, great book. The book was better, but also that math and Moneyball math really hasn't turned out for the A's. I mean, it got them 1 division series title. That's it. So
making another headline this week in the top 5, bottom 5, and this time on the top end of it, but still not for the right reasons.
Coming back again. So
it's coming back around, but yeah, I agree. Great movie. Brad Pitt plays an outstanding role there, and so
yeah, some people might disagree with this, but they probably rank it higher. Sandlot, number 3, my favorite. Sandlot, just wow, best kid baseball movie ever. I think anybody can relate to it. I mean, I wasn't born when it was supposed to be going on, but I think everyone just thought that was just such a cool thing, picking up with your friends in the summer and playing baseball every day.
Yeah.
And I love that movie. I love the 4th of July scene, being able to play underneath the fireworks. Just a lot of nostalgia in that.
Yeah, very American. A lot of nostalgia. Great storyline. You know, us as kids getting on our bike and going to play catch at the nearest field is kind of everything that relates to anybody. So great to find on number 3. Great call there. Coming in number 2.
Yeah, number 2, Bull Durham, Crash Davis. Once again, another Kevin Costner movie. Crash Davis, Nuke LaLoosh, Chasing Anna Savoy. Life lessons all over this movie. This movie is rated R for a reason, but man, some of the scenes with Crash David and Nuke LaLoosh just unbelievable.
So, first time I watched that movie, I'm pretty sure 10th grade health class. How did he get away with playing that?
No. Yeah, no. great movie though. But yeah, no, probably shouldn't be showing that in class.
There are definitely some questionable scenes. The locker room scene where
Yep.
he's, yep. So,
Yeah. Yeah, where he wears the garter because he's got the rose on backwards. He's like the rose goes in the front.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he breathe through your eyelids, all that good stuff. Number one, and I just love this because it's my favorite baseball movie, Major League. I just love the characters when I coached. I mean, we just, nicknamed kids these things like Roger Dorn, Willie Mays Hayes, Pedro Serrano, of course, classic Wild Thing. I mean, just so funny. These guys that are on the Indians, they just band together to beat this owner that's trying to move them to Florida, I believe. And so I just love this movie. So funny, and I think it's actually a really good story too. So that's my top five. Bottom five. Please, like I said, reply, comment so that you can tell me, what you think. Michael, your list isn't any good, or I love your list, Michael.
Yeah, of course, there's a lot of baseball movies not included, Field of Dreams, other things, but Hobbs bringing it in with the top five, bottom fives. I appreciate you doing that. Well, that concludes this week's episode. Again, Patty's, the most helpful thing that you can do for us is just spread the word about Patriarch Podcast, our social medias, our tag to our bios, whether you're on Instagram or Spotify or TikTok, whatever.
Twitter, we got a Twitter too, or X now. Yeah.
X now, and so please just spread the word. That it's just so helpful for us. And so appreciate this week, and we look forward to talking next week. Here at Patriarch, we like to support good causes and events. That's why I want to take a moment to highlight and share information with our Pats. One nonprofit I want to highlight is the Wished Events. The founder and CEO, Caleb Davis, is a good buddy of the podcast and us personally. In fact, him and his brother, one of my best friends, are guys I've known personally for the better part of the last decade. Just over a year ago, Caleb started Wished Events. I'll bring him on to talk in detail a little bit more about his story, but as a young cancer survivor and a Make-A-Wish alum, he has a passion to help support fighting childhood cancer in any way he can. After doing countless volunteer hours and wish granting for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, a door was opened for him to get more involved. That door led to him starting his own foundation, Wished Events. Through his own organized events, he is able to raise funds, awareness, and help promote and grow all childhood cancer foundations. His annual goal is to host several events with the monetary benefit going straight to these organizations. He has shared with me that the next Wished event is the 5K 1 mile walk, set to be held in late April. Other events to follow include the Wished Events Golf Classic held every fall and the holiday party in December. One really cool note to highlight, they've only had 4 events thus far, raising more than $70,000. It truly is a great thing that Caleb is doing, so mark those calendars to get involved or even volunteer. For more information, you can email Caleb directly at wishedevents.com. Thanks for listening to this week's show. We hope you enjoyed and are considering becoming a full-time listener, or PATS as we call them. Tune in next week as we continue to talk about the things that govern the everyday dad, sports, grilling, and general life. And of course, feel free to subscribe to our show by hitting the like button or giving us a rave review.